Welcome to Life on Purpose, where we talk all things health, wellness, and living your life on your terms. I'm your host, Brandy Eilert. All right, welcome back to the Life on Purpose podcast, where today my guest is Steve Wiltshire, who is a keynote speaker, author, mindset coach, and creator of Body Temple Health and Wellness. So we are going to dig into all kinds of stuff today with you, Steve. I'm so grateful to have you today.
Awesome to be here. I have really enjoyed your podcast.
Oh, thank you.
You're fantastic at what you do. And I love the episodes. And of course, it's near and dear to my heart. So I'm going to be sending a lot of people to you.
Oh, that's fantastic. I appreciate
it. They need
that,
it, right?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's a lot to talk about kind of in the health and wellness space, and not only the good, but the bad. I mean, there's also dark sides that we can dig into as well, which kind of plays into your story just a little bit. You know, you didn't create this business overnight. This is not something that you came out of high school and said, I'm going to be a mindset coach. I'm going to help people find their way to wellness. What was that journey? Where did that start for you? What was it like for you?
Oh, my journey. Well, if I go back a while, because I've been a keynote speaker, a trainer for about 22 years. And I was actually in sales, and my life looked pretty darn good from the outside, but I, for some reason, was discontent. And I kept wondering why I felt this discontentment. I was waking up early in the morning, sometimes like 3:34 in the morning. Usually I get up about 6:30, and I kept having this discontentment and was having lots of conversations with God. And then I started to notice that I was just not really happy. And I thought, why am I not happy? I have this great career. I have this beautiful home. I have this great family. And so a friend of mine, I just kept praying about it. And a friend of mine had made all these changes in her life. And I asked her how she did it. She said she hired a coach. And I didn't know what that was back in the late 90s. Yeah. And so I reached out, and long story short, great question, because I think a lot of us experience what I experienced. After I had worked with this coach for 2 sessions, I realized I had created this life that was based by my illusion of what I thought other people thought of my success. Mm-hmm. And it was like, do I know myself? And then, hopefully we're going to talk a little bit about meditation and talk about, I always say, environments create change. And for example, my morning, no one gets my morning but me. And in all of that, going back to what I was just talking about, is that me tapping into that time was me listening to my inner guidance system that pulled out this situation that I was able to work with this coach. And then I had a vision. I want to write a book. I had a vision. I want to help people one-on-one. I wanted her skills. I wanted her language. I wanted all of that. So I just started going to coaching school. And then all of a sudden I wrote a book, and then I wrote a second book, and then I wrote an audio program. And then I started, creating my life, and everything just unfolded beautifully. And I've been able to help people create the life that they love. And then that changed in 18 after I got sick and healed myself.
Which we're going to dive into that, but I want to go back to something that you said about coaching and really kind of so many of us going through and hitting these walls of, okay, I'm on this trajectory. I should be happy. I have everything that anybody would probably want. But something's missing. What part of all of that do you think is us lacking kind of this wisdom a little bit? Like we as a society we don't have these wisdom leaders any longer. We kind of don't have these gurus in our life to help us along the way and kind of impart wisdom upon us to where we can ask ourselves those questions. I don't feel like we really ask ourselves too many questions along the way. We're really trying to tick the boxes, right? What part do you feel is us lacking kind of that guidance that you can kind of find with a coach or a mentor?
You just said it.
Yeah.
Who asks questions? Especially the North America part of the world, right? Everybody has advice. Everybody wants to throw out their content, but who asks questions?
Yeah.
There's something about seeing people resourceful, resilient, capable. And, just sometimes when I'm out and about, I notice that people always say, "What do you do?"
Yeah.
And I find it interesting because I'm just being curious. I'm being present. I'm calling people by their name.
Mm-hmm.
When I back up out of my driveway every day, it's been doing this for years. I say, "Steve," I talk to myself, "Steve, you're going out in the world. We're going to pull out the best in people.
Right.
We're going to be present. We don't know what people are going through. We're going to pull people's joy out." And I'm curious. And, years ago, when people would ask me, especially when I was traveling, "What do you do?" I'd say, "I'm a coach, I'm a speaker." And I changed it. I just started telling people, I help people get what they want, everything that they want, because that's what I do. And what I see is that two things. Number one, we got to be tapped into our inner guidance system.
Yeah.
Some people call it Jesus, some people call it creator, some people call it universe, some people call it inner being. But we've got to be tapped in. We've got to find that time. That's what was happening for me. And I was just listening. And it was way before I really learned how to meditate, going back many years. But what I know is your soul is one step ahead. And then there's this natural progression where you are energetically guided. And it's when we are taught that contrast is a good thing. Contrast is a great thing, wanted and unwanted conditions, but it's how we anchor our mind. The primal mind is like animals. The frontal lobe is, it's free will. No one ever talks about it, but it's what I think is God's gift to us. Like, it's free will. We have this ability to live in this realm of free will. And when we are tapping into that place, we are attracting all the ideal situations, ideal resources, people. It's not by chance that all of you that are listening to this podcast are here right now. There has been something in your day or the journey that has led you right now. When you start to trust that, everything in life that you deep down want, it's possible.
Right. And back to the meditation part of it, that just allows for you to kind of stop and quiet the mind and really let those things in, kind of that energetic connection, that your body catching up with your soul a little bit, because it is kind of this push and pull. You kind of have this soul level push, and then kind of this, the plane that we're on here, pull, like, whoa, I'm not, too much. I don't know where I should be going with this.
People need a framework. It's not as complicated as it seems. What I've realized, I have a whole process on that. Body Temple has a whole process on that. Yeah. And we call it our miracle morning ritual. And it's this template that we customize. I mean, you're a coach, you get it. Like, don't you feel like the key word to coaching when somebody says, what is it really about? And when I start getting dialogue about it, I always say, it's always about customization. It's always about customization. People need templates to begin with, but once they start to see that they've got this partnership and that they are designing that along the way, that morning ritual. I mean, you think about it. Do you ever listen to Joe Dispenza?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that guy is just over the top. When you think about his big case study that he did with 50,000 people that really had a death sentence, you know, they basically were, they weren't going to live. And when he talked about like why they lived and what that experience was like for them, he said, number one, they knew this creator wanted them to live. They were tapped into this creator, this inner being, whatever they called it. They all came from all different religions. Second, they became somebody unnoticeable to the people that knew them the most. What does that mean? They transformed. These relationships knew who they were, but they were anew. They were like the brightest elevated state of that person that they had known for years. Third, they lost themselves in meditation. Elementary meditation is you get up and you meditate right away. Most people just fall asleep because it's just not natural. Like Garrett White says, get up, move, you know, just get up and move for 10, 15, 20 minutes and then sit down, quiet your mind and tap in. But they lost sight doing the thing that they love to do. If you love rapping or you love piano or you love hiking or you love walking or you love whatever, that's when you start to tune in. And I think that that's the most important thing that I always just talk about is live your highest excitement. You know, do that one thing that is in relationship with yourself where you just, like for me, it's sauna, it's going to the gym, it's getting on a cardio machine. It's just, I mean, I listen to all my favorite music, but it's that morning ritual, it's training the brain, right? Like you write your affirmations around relationships. Who do you want to be in your relationships? You write your affirmations around your career, your vision. You know, vision is the impulse, pulling us to distinguish who and what we are. I say it's the divine adventure and self-discovery where our greatest attributes are activated. And then your faith and your health. And so when you have written those affirmations, you start to train your brain on that thing that you want to become or attract or eventually achieve. And that's the environment that sets you up on the day.
Right. So you've gotten to the point where you have this ritual, including meditation, and it kind of sets you up for envisioning your day, your life, what you want. How do you then get people to take that next step and getting that? Because there's a huge difference between, you know, envisioning the life you want and actually getting it. So many of us are so scared to, you know, we've envisioned it. Now what? Take that next step. Now what? You know, what are those big roadblocks that you see holding people back the most?
Well, it's, I think a lot of people don't know how to design a plan.
Yeah.
So like I wrote a curriculum, I've written 100 curriculums for entrepreneurs. I've been an entrepreneur coach for 20 years. My clients rock. They build multi-million dollar businesses. But ironically, they hire me for that, or I'll say, because we have several coaches, they hire me for that. And that's what they think the focus is, just to realize that, oh, it's an all-inclusive plan. You know, when my health gets better, and my marriage gets better, my partnership gets better, my faith gets better, I'm having more fun. You know, there's this process, you probably have heard of the life wheel, like I'm all about my life wheel, right? Because it's a tool that they can relate to, and how, like, you know, I'll be out and about and have a conversation with somebody and I'll say, well, what do you want more of? And they say, gosh, because the last 2 years been a lot more focused on my health, you know, or on health, 3 years. And people will say, I really want to take my health to the next level. I say, well, how fulfilled are you with your health, right? A scale of 1 to 10. But so a curriculum that I created called Designing a Life and Business Plan, it comes down to, you know, part of my work with Tony Robbins and John Maxwell and the late Wayne Dyer. And your question was all about how do you get people into action? When you can support them with designing this plan, and talking about is templates. I'm all about resources. Like I have just libraries with resources. And in my mind as a coach, I'm always asking myself, what's this person want? Why? Do I know that? Am I clear about that?
Yeah.
What education do they need to get what they want? Like, I think it's a waste of a client's investment to have to educate them. I don't do that. And that's why they know they get big value from my time, because I send them the exact thing they're going to listen to or watch or read or attend. And then in all of that, they'll do the assignments and get that back to me. And then that's where the light bulb comes on.
Yeah.
And then, so second question, what education do they need to get what they want? And third is, what customized process will I create for them to achieve what they want? And so in all of that, it's just this journey, right? Just like you have 3 kids, right?
Yeah.
You know, and you learn. I was listening to Joyce Meyer a couple days ago, and she talked about her daughter that helps organize her ministry. And she's like, oh my gosh, growing up, she was a mess. Like everything was like disorganized and just didn't matter like how I tried to help her with organization. We got to believe in people and keep holding their hand in that journey. And it's just a beautiful thing, especially with health. Because I find with health that it's so personal. Mm-hmm. And what's happened is that, you know, they've carried this thing around for a long time called their body. And they have program their mind to believe they're always going to be this certain way. In fact, in that episode on functional medicine, mm-hmm. You ended and you were talking about, I think it's the next, it was one that I heard anyway. You were talking to a therapist, and she was talking about her past. And anyway, it was such a great episode because we believe in something, you know. Oh my gosh, you're such a great podcaster. You're pulling out all this stuff in me. When I was younger, my brother, for example, my brothers were just really athletic. I was not. And my dad was super athletic. He could have been a college pro, and he just planted in my mind. I was skinny. I was uncoordinated. I wasn't athletic. Mm-hmm. And when I was in sales, I was at a convention, 26, 4,000 people, this keynote speaker's at the very end, and frustrated. Audience is getting loud. She got everybody quiet, people standing by the door, people ready to fly out of LA. And she looked at everybody and she said, I got one question before you leave. What are you sick and tired of being sick and tired of? Mm-hmm. I'm 27 years old, ready to go to my 10-year reunion in 6 months. I wrote, I hate my body. That was the journey. That was the beginning of my journey. I had this beautiful wife, had this great career, skinny, didn't know how to eat. You know, I smoked, drank coffee till 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I came home, hired a trainer, and in 6 months transformed my body. But you know what I noticed? My income elevated that year. It just completely elevated. And it was esteem, it was focus, it was giving myself permission. Up until that point, I was like a doer, and I was always about helping other people. And I think that's the thing. That's the first step that we have in Body Temple's process is make a decision. You're ready for change. Just make the decision. You're ready for change.
So let me ask you this then. The biggest part, you know, you obviously you changed your health. Mm-hmm. You changed your body. What part of that was the health, and what part of that was the confidence that you gained from being healthy that made those changes in your income and the confidence that you had to kind of boost all these other areas of your life?
You know, interesting question. You're a great coach. You're a fantastic
I'm not even meaning.
You really,
it is one of those things that I like people to ask themselves, because, you know, this is what I want for myself. I want this health. I want, you know, my body to be healthier and more fit and etc. And so you do that and you create this health for yourself, this body for yourself. And then is that the trigger that then boosts the confidence that you kind of get this ball rolling into this life that you really, really want. So is the question then, just get the ball rolling, whatever it is, whatever it is. What do you want? What do you want to change? Start that ball rolling. Is that kind of the question?
I find it interesting that I've only been interviewed by a couple of coaches. And in all of that, you know, those skills, and I'm having an experience like a client right now where you are having me think. And I sometimes forget that, like it makes me emotional right now and brings me joy and has me want that for people. That's why I love my work. Yeah. It's like that time where that light bulb goes off and you're like, and I mean, all I could hear in my mind when you asked me that question is when I was 18 years old, my parents are really well off and they lost everything when Chrysler almost went bankrupt years ago in the late 70s. Almost my stay-at-home mom's like, we're moving into this apartment, they have 3 bedrooms, and all this change happened. But long story short, I started, is there a short story with me? I'm 18 years old and I get into sales and I started to feel this independence. I had to work all through high school. I couldn't do sports. There was no money. And I became this strong guy with work ethic, right? And I got into sales. And I remember I wanted to go see Zig Ziglar for $97. It was $97. I'm 18 years, no, I'm not even 18. I'm 17 years old. I'm a senior in high school. And my mother said to me, I said, God, everybody's going but it's $99 or something like that. And she said, honey, success isn't on sale. When you invest in something, you will put your heart and soul into it. And I've always found experts. And I'll share, hopefully in a little bit, my journey about experts. But in all of that, when you said that, I thought about the gift that I've always given myself is to not have to figure it out, to work with a partner. And in all of that, as a coach and going back and forth client to coach, that when somebody asks you those painful questions and you realize it's not a judgment, it's not a statement, it's a question. My favorite question is, I'll preface it and I'll say to a client, I'm going to ask you a question. I want to invite you to take a breath. And I want to invite you just to be with it. Just listen to it. Notice what comes up. And I'll say, what's the truth? What do you suppose you need to change about what you're doing and who you're being to be able to achieve X, Y, Z? And often it brings up emotion. You know, we have to see the dark side. Right. And I noticed that in episode 38, when you were talking to Peter and about functional medicine and these people that want to heal, they definitely want to heal, and they're looking for an expert, but they're not 100% in. They know their health is challenged, right, and they need to go narrow, but they don't want to give up the food that they're eating. They don't want to give up the alcohol. They don't want to give up. They just, the challenge in all of that. And I know in our 5-part process, we have a process we just work with anyone on how to create what we call their ideal wellness plan. Yeah. And the first question is that happy question, which is like, what are the top 3 to 5 reasons why you want ideal health. Fast forward, it's a year, it's 3 years, it's 5 years. You've completely transformed your health. What do you want? But I always ask the opposite question too. It's like, what don't you want? And I say, my motivation is I don't want to be in a wheelchair. I don't want to walk like a normal 50-year-old. I don't want to manifest disease. I want vitality. I don't even want to be on the planet if I don't feel good. Like, what don't you want? Right. And when they can address that, wow, it wakes them up.
That's almost a larger motivator than what you do want, because again, those ideas of the things that could happen if you do not start on that path of healing and health now is terrifying. I mean, my own personal story, which I've shared on this show before, when I realized that as a 33-year-old woman with small children, I was not able to do the things and feel the way that I felt just a year before. The idea of living the rest of my life like that, I mean, I was just getting started. It was not an option. It was not an option. And I think that that's an important place for people to get to, is this is not an option. And that has to be the motivator then. I cannot continue on like this. And I certainly don't want to feel even worse than this. You have to want that vitality more than you want whatever got you there. And nobody wants to ask those questions. Nobody wants to believe that they have done something to get themselves to that spot, even if it was unintentional. I mean, I think we do a lot of things that we know aren't good for us, and we know it, but there's also a lot of things that we do to ourselves that we don't really realize. And a lot of that is both physical and emotional, kind of this baggage that we carry around, as a whole picture. And one question, and I'll add this to the questions that, you kind of ask. One question that I like to ask is, whatever you're telling yourself, is it the truth? What lies are you telling yourself? Because we lie to ourselves a lot. And, I like to get people to say, okay, this is how I feel about myself. Is that true? Where did this come from? Where is the root of this lie I've been telling myself? Where does this come from? And is it true? And that was a hard one, I think, for me. These things that I have told myself about me, are they true? And getting, to kind of work through those. And I think once you get there, again, it's kind of that snowball effect of getting that ball rolling into, what else have I been telling myself that maybe isn't true?
And
kind of breaking down those walls.
Self-esteem. I studied self-esteem for 2.5 years. And Carolyn Mace, by the way, great person to follow. Like, she's been around a while, and wow. Yeah. But this process that I have, that I take clients to, and I'm all about templates, right? Because they work, right? Yeah. Is that when we notice diminished emotions, that's the trigger. We notice I am feeling diminished emotion. And sometimes you're not aware of it until you start to get aware of your body, because it happens in your body. It doesn't really happen in your mind. It happens in your body. And so when you're feeling diminished emotions, you ask yourself, first step, what are emotions that describe how I'm feeling? And sometimes it's, like a lot of things. And then it's like, specifically about what? And then when you start to identify, it may be a couple of things. It may be something that once you start to realize your answer, it often is reoccurring. Yeah. And then the third question is, what are perspectives or options that would support me in shifting this thinking? And then you start to really see it. And after a while, you're learning to coach yourself. And then the fourth question are, what are solutions that I might make to diminish these emotions? And then fifth step is like commitment. Right. Yeah, I love it. Going back to what you were saying about how I'll say it like this: the choices that we've made, or the life that we're living today, is in direct relationship to the choices we made yesterday.
Right.
And the choices we make today will determine the life that we will live tomorrow. Mm-hmm. That's basically what you talked about. And in all of that, what's most important is that we must be beautiful with ourselves through our journey. When we start to judge ourselves, we prevent, I'll say it like this, all the hosts of heaven to support us in our pathway to create quantum leap results. And it's possible to create these quantum leap results when you are finding a success team, when you are owning your power. We're always operating from one of two states. It's the truth. We operate from a state of power, or we operate from a state of powerless. It's never in between. You're either in a power, and what does that mean? Especially since COVID 2020, we start to look at, all this influence and all these changes that are happening. Well, power means I love how I think. I love how I'm handling this. I love how I'm being with this situation. I love how I'm being with this person's reaction. I love how I got through this. I love, that's when you are noticing that you're in power.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, let's go. I want to really dig into, kind of what we were touching on before, because you had kind of this breakdown in your health when you thought you were doing everything right. Mm-hmm. You were kind of on this trajectory, but you had a real crash in your physical health. Can you talk a little bit about that and what happened around that?
Yeah, absolutely. When I got sick, I would say for 30 years, everybody that's known me would say, wow, you model ideal health. And before I got sick, everything that I thought I was doing, I thought was ideal. And most everything that I learned from experts, because I came home when I was 27, and then I hired this, trainer and expert, and that was all good. I was on this kind of journey, and I was taught these radical meal plans that can't sustain you over time, like keto and supplements. I just thought all supplements were chemical free. I just never even thought about it. I just going back in the day, I just thought a supplement was non-chemical. I didn't know that 92% of the products on the market had chemicals in them. And so I had no signs leading up to it. I just remember the day that, I took my son out, 12 years old, about a decade ago, to a vegan restaurant. And I stood up and I said, there's something wrong. And my stomach was so bloated. And he's 12. And I think you have an 11-year-old, right?
Yeah, 11-year-old girl, right?
And he looks at me and he goes, dude, what happened to your abs? Like, oh my God, your abs are gone. I go, Quinn, I don't know. I don't feel right. And I felt like I had to go to the doctor, or the hospital. Like I was so bloated. And doctors were no help. My blood work came back great. I looked great. I kept thinking, you got to be kidding me. Like, what am I manifesting? Like I knew that I was in the middle of manifesting something. And the good news is my son's mom, who is my partner in my other brand, Lifeline Coaching and Training and Body, Temple Health and Wellness, had been healing herself from 3rd stage cancer. No chemo, no radiation, no surgery. She had learned everything from the Hypocrites Institute in Southern Florida, which I believe is the best healing institute by far in the US. And she lives and breathes that practice. And she is exactly what I would call, you've talked about it. She's at 98%. She's at 98%. And so she had set the example, and she's 100% plant-based. We sprout. we're life sprouters. I mean, food shortage, big deal. I'll just
Yeah.
eat sprouts. I'll just do smoothies, like big deal. Like no worries, right? No chemicals, no toxins. And what people don't realize is that they just have to be retrained, because the pharmaceutical movement's part of it. All the Western medicine's all part of it. Media is all part of it. It's glam, man. You deserve to go out on Friday night and eat that combined food. It's just not even good to combine your food. When you get older, you realize you just don't combine protein and carbs and fruit. You don't do it. Why do people think, God, why do I get bloated when I have a smoothie? Well, you just don't have a green smoothie and a fruit smoothie. They just don't work together.
Right.
And so after I had shifted from doctors to, I'll call them healers, might be disguised as a naturopath or disguised as excuse me, acupuncturist, or, I mean, I just had some crazy healers. I realized I had celiac disease. I had such a bad case of candida. It took me 18 months, $20,000 to get rid of. I remember the journey started.
Wow.
First of all, I want to just say, those of you that are really tapped into what I'm saying, your job's to get blood work done. And I'm not talking about going to your physician and getting a general panel. I'm talking about extensive blood work at least once a year. If you want to do it like I do it, twice a year.
Yeah.
And most importantly, being tapped into your body. You know, when you do the work that Brandy and I do, I'm sometimes shocked that people didn't know, like what was going on that you did not know.
Yeah.
And so in all of that, I had this bad case of bad bacteria and candida and couldn't get rid of it. 14% of the population has parasites. Yeah. It's not even talked about in Western medicine. You know, there are these parasites that you contract from chemicals, processed food, supplements, water is filled, like tap water is filled with so many toxins, pharmaceuticals, fluoride, animal protein. You know, parasites even can be contracted through sexual intercourse. And some of these parasites are activate cancer cells. Well, in all of that, I just started to come up with a plan to heal my body. And so it wasn't really that difficult because she had already started that journey. And I'll say that most importantly, when you're not feeling right, you just got to start to seek out. There are people like Brandy and I that can guide you on that journey. And I really have a very simple process in how to make that happen. And it's a lot, it can completely shift when you start to realize, sorry, I knew there was something I was going to circle back on. Like, there are desserts that you can make that are so incredible that have no sugar in them. You know, there are vegan recipes that you can learn to make. We have a whole Body Temple has an incredible program. Well, we just got a recipe book called Body Temple. Body Temple recipes, right?
It's too early. It's you're on the West Coast right now. It's
know that part of the free gift for some of you that need to leave early or do that we have for you is called our Kickstart 15-day gut detox. Kickstart Detox program. And in that, we have a list of all these vegan recipes. It's completely complimentary. If you go to bodytemplekickstart.com, bodytemplekickstart.com, you will realize that we've got a whole process on how to design a plan, and more than 15 days, but just to get you started, especially right now. Well, we're recording this during the holidays, and that's why I like this conversation. So you don't get to the new year with 20 extra pounds, right?
We're going into the most stressful time for people's health, like emotional, physical, all of it. So perfect timing. So what is this process like for somebody who wants to work with Body Temple or with you? What does this look like if they want to kind of reboot their health? or even just get started with focusing on their health? What does this look like?
Yeah. I think, I want to just throw out a couple of things. First of all, so, you go through this journey and you start to realize I'm like ready for change. And so for me, I was like thinking everything that I was doing was great. I'm 44 years old. And at this point, my life is incredible. I'm getting ready to just like big, big. I launched a huge program, traveling all over the US, doing my thing. And my friends are like, when are you going to do a fitness show? When are you going to do a fitness show? Steve, you got to do a fitness show. And so I was 44 and I couldn't even imagine it. I had more clients than I knew what to do with, and all these coaches and doing all these seminars. And so I finally made this decision. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna do this for myself. I'm gonna do this for myself. So I made it my goal to be in the best possible shape of my life at 44 years old. That was 13 years ago. And so I'm a mindset coach, and I thought it was interesting. I want you all to hear this because this is really about you. It was the only time in my life that this thing that I was going to do, this I thought would be one fitness show, I ended up doing two that no one had control over. I wasn't attached to winning. I wanted to be in the best possible shape. No one told me whether I worked out or got in the sauna or did 30 minutes of cardio or stayed on my meal plan. That's what's so fun about this game, is that your health, no one has control over. You have 100% control. And we think about life and the transformation and the things that happen in our life. What can we really control at the end of the day? Our thinking, our disposition, our attitude, and the decisions that we make, the actions that we take. So here I'm like having this great time getting ready for this show. And I end up competing in two. I win multiple first place overall, and I'm traveling. I got tons of stuff going on. And then I stay on this regimen for 2 years, 2.5 years. I'm spending $800 a month on supplements. I'm eating less food than I am taking supplements. And then all of a sudden my gut caved. And this is when my whole life changed. When it affected my relationships, it affected my finances. I didn't have clarity. I had this retreat in Vegas that cost my company $100,000. I had all these people flying in, all these leaders across the US. I'm 18 weeks into my illness. And I'm like, God, please get me through this. How am I going to get through this retreat? And that's when life became really serious for me thinking I was trusting people and not doing my research and all of that. And then this is when this whole new journey started for me. And so that after I healed myself, that's when I made this decision that it was 2018. And I remember moving and I kept hearing the Holy Spirit say to me, are you going to help people? You only need to help people. You are the engine. You've always been the engine. Do this. When are you going to do this? If you don't, I'm going to go to someone else. And so I just decided to start Body Temple Health and Wellness. And it's evolved since that time. And when we're a philanthropic movement, that's how we started. It's a big part of what we do. And this Kickstart Detox program, you're going to realize, first of all, it was quite an expense and it was great, awesome. We're all about paying it forward, right? And so the Kickstart Detox Plan is an example of this process that we take people through, because what you're going to realize in this 15-day process is that it just introduces you to detoxing on a regular basis. I enjoy my 5 days a week in the sauna. I enjoy doing a wheatgrass intake. That's extreme for a lot of people. What's so awesome is that this process takes you through these 3 steps. are you ready to make a decision, make a commitment? Are you ready to make a decision? You're ready for change. Yeah. And you just make that decision. And then second, we create your ideal wellness plan. In this process, we'll take you through choosing one of three plans, like a basic, progressive, or ideal. And the ideal plans for those
not everybody is on the same level of commitment, right? So this all goes back to you talking about needing customization, because, you know, some of these more extreme movements, not everybody's there yet. The fact that you're taking a baby
step, not at all. That's what makes this plan. So, I mean, that's why it took 8 months. Like, we just think that way, you know? So what we've realized, you have people that just need to take these baby steps, right? A confused mind says no. And so that's, you even feel the, Lynn and I both do this video and have put together this gut detox manual and this process. And my favorite part is, so step 1, make a decision, ready for change. Step 2, create your ideal wellness plan. Well, during that detox, we've got 3 choices. And you decide which choice you want. You might want the basic. You're just going to get started on this thing. That's where you're at. Right. No guilt zone. But third is my favorite. Shift your poor habits to ideal habits and notice your triggers. See, all of you, we got this dopamine, serotonin thing going on. I mean, for me, it was alcohol. Like, I have never had an alcohol problem, but just me going out with friends occasionally, that's just my first thought, you know, gonna order that Spanish coffee or that lemon, that lemon martini, and or lemon drop, I guess. So I don't remember it anymore. I'm not there.
It's been a while, huh?
Yeah. But when you start to understand mindset and you start to play in that realm, oh, you get it, Brandy. It's so fun.
So this program is really the whole package of tapping into not only the physical health, but the mindset blocks of why maybe you can't have, or you haven't been able to until now, the ideal health that you've wanted, or what's holding you back from making these changes. And see, I think that that's what's missing a lot in the wellness world. And we talked about a little bit of the darkness in the wellness space, and that is the chemicals in the supplements. And kind of this focusing maybe on one area and not the whole picture of what it is to be truly healthy, mind, body, spirit, all of it. So I like the idea that this program kind of works in that whole realm.
That's a taste of our big picture.
Yeah.
But what, when you think about what's really happening to most of you is you have created a story in your mind. Right. And the story is this reoccurring thought and reoccurring emotions that you have that you have bought into. It's your true north. What a powerful phrase, right? Yeah. It's your true north. It's not really true, but you make it true. Yeah. And in order to shift that story, I'm going to back up, because see, what you want is you want to be in that state where you're unstoppable. We look at people that have that body that we want, or that health that we want, or that career that we want, or that marriage that they want, or we want. And we aspire for it, or worse, we are jealous of it. They're both the same thing. One's healthy and what's not. You want to get to a point where you aspire for something. But what changes all of it is the strategy. And this is why I think these old models, like, I want to name them, and there are all these diets and things that are just like these old models that don't really work. Because what I've learned is that you can customize. There are people that I love my smoothie. I do intermittent fasting every day. And I just drank my smoothie. My smoothie is totally nutritious, but there are people that gag when they eat a smoothie. Well, can you imagine? It was part of the program. You're just going to have to get over it. Put your big girl panties on and just let's get with it. It just isn't have to be that way. There are all these options.
Right.
And when you have an expert or a program that can take you through that process, but the biggest part of the strategy is staying on the journey and enjoying the process. And that's where you have to start. That's why going right back 360 to the morning miracle, or having your affirmations down. Like, okay, we're talking about alcohol, right? And we talked about power, being in your power and being powerless. Like, I remember when I just made a decision, I'm done drinking, and I couldn't show up in environments with friends without ordering a drink. So now I'm starting to feel powerless. Like, whoa, what the hell is going on with you, dude? You can't do this. And so I wrote an affirmation. I don't meet friends in environments that promote drinking. I just needed to shift that. And what was odd is that, like, I've always been, running and rocking life and busy and stuff. But when I would get ready to go out, I'd play my favorite music. I'd groom myself. I love Versace. I love getting dressed up, and I'd always, make my lemon drop or my favorite bottle of Chardonnay and just take my time. But that was a memory, man. It was in my body. The serotonin and the dopamine started playing with that. That's the first thing that I would think about when I would just start to get ready to go out. You got all these memories. And this is why those affirmations and training your brain. I just went months, without meeting people anywhere in a bar or a restaurant without drinking. Now it's easy.
It becomes habit, right?
Yeah.
You set the affirmation, you follow through, and then it becomes habit. Right. And so your life starts to slowly look different and you don't even realize it. And I think that's important for people to kind of understand, is it doesn't have to be overly complicated. It's really about simplicity.
It is in theory.
Yeah.
But when you have a template, right? Like you and I create, and you'll have that. Everyone, you watch the video, you realize you get to step 3 and we give you very tangible tools. We give you examples. Like, I have examples I talk about affirmations and talk about these, what I call thought provoking questions that, like, for me, one of them, we give you these categories that you can work with. And for me, my most important inquiries are taught to me when I have discernment and wisdom, when I things that start to come up where I know I'm being pulled in. And this is going right back to the frontal lobe that we've been so blessed with. I say, whoa, what might this action cost me?
Right.
What might this action cost me? And I stop and I start to think. So, you go and buy that favorite, drive-through, or you're in this situation where, God, I feel like having a cigarette again,
right,
or whatever. And you'll know, because when I got sick after I started healing myself, man, it was same thing. I wanted to do normal food, and and I could for a while. Like, I realized I actually could. But I started to realize that I don't want to slip out of this really great place that I'm in. And that's when you start to notice that the plan that you've created for your life, and it's like a business plan. It's a wellness plan. I just transferred everything that I did in business and helping people rock life into health. And it just started to work. BodyTempleKickstart.com. Great way to get started.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, I will add all of that into the show notes, and everywhere that people can find you and get started with you, or even just see if it's right for them. I mean, if that's something that they're even ready for, but
you know what it is? It's about paying forward, right? Like, this is a completely pay it forward program. We do have a community online with many coaches interacting, answering questions, continuous lives. I'm really not the magic one of the partnership. I'll tell you, Lynn is over the top. Like her journey of the last 10 years, it's beyond expert. You know, it's what I know about your podcast and why you have such magic. I hardly ever use that word, Brandy, because you've experienced it and you knew it was your journey to get through it. And now you deeply and profoundly want to impact the lives of others. That's what I love about you and all about you. I am going to be sharing your podcast with all of our following and all our communities. And I'm just so excited for what you have to offer. Like, I am profoundly impacted by your work. And I love listening to your interviews, by the way.
Thank you. And I'm so grateful. I'm grateful for that kindness. And I'm grateful for your time and sharing your wisdom and everything with this audience. So people go, go find Steve, go find Body Temple Health and Wellness and get started.
You will. One thing that I've done 1,600 seminars, and I don't know that I knew this was going to be so powerful, but I had all these coaches, and a coach would pick up the phone. I tell people in my audience, I just say, you're going to hear from a coach. It will take us probably about a week, but you'll hear from a coach. Yeah. And what will happen after you register for the 15-day Kickstart Detox, you'll hear a coach will just reach out to ask you if you have any questions. And they're here to help you walk through the process. And that's all about that old school mentality. I love picking up the phone and just making that raw connection with people.
And I love that because I think we're missing so much of that. And I'm grateful that that's your method. I really, really love the personalization because, and I will say, when you and I first connected, I got a text message from you and it was just so personal. And it was kind of made me excited to finally meet and talk in person. So thank you for being you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.